The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the sterile conference room as Amanda Chen sat rigidly in her chair, her blazer pulled tight across her shoulders. Around the mahogany table, 12 pairs of eyes scrutinized her every move. She had prepared for this moment for months, knowing that her career with Blackwater Security Solutions hung in the balance. But nothing could have prepared her for what Commander Jake Morrison was about to demand. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Ms. Chun, Morrison's voice cut through the tension like a blade. We need to see proof of your commitment to this organization. Remove your jacket. Amanda's heart hammered against her ribs, the tattoo on her left shoulder hidden beneath layers of fabric and carefully chosen clothing for 3 years, was about to be exposed to the very people who could destroy everything she had worked for. As she slowly reached for her blazer buttons, she had no idea that in 30 seconds, the most decorated Navy SEAL in the room would recognize something that would change both their lives forever. Amanda Chun had never imagined her life would lead her to this moment. Growing up in a small apartment above her grandmother's dim sum restaurant in San Francisco's Chinatown, she had watched her parents work 18-hour days just to keep the lights on. Her father, David, delivered newspapers before dawn and drove a taxi until midnight. Her mother, Susan, cleaned office buildings downtown while helping at the restaurant during lunch rushes. The Chun family lived paycheck to paycheck, but they held on to one unwavering belief: education was the only path to a better life. Amanda excelled in school, not because learning came naturally, but because failure meant disappointing the two people who sacrificed everything for her future. While her classmates at Lincoln High School worried about prom dates and weekend parties, Amanda spent her evenings tutoring younger students for extra money and her weekends helping at the restaurant. College seemed impossible until her guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, pulled her aside during senior year. Amanda, you're one of the brightest students I've ever taught. Have you considered the military academies? The idea had never crossed Amanda's mind. Military service felt like a world away from her family's quiet immigrant dreams. But as she researched the Naval Academy, something stirred within her. The structure, the honor code, the promise of leadership training, it all appealed to the part of her that craved order in a chaotic world. When the acceptance letter arrived, her parents wept. Not from sadness, but from pride that their daughter would become something they never could have imagined. Annapolis proved to be the most challenging 4 years of Amanda's life. She struggled with the physical demands, often finishing last in morning runs, while her classmates seemed to glide effortlessly around the track. The academic workload pushed her to her limits, especially in engineering courses where her high school preparation felt inadequate. But Amanda possessed something that couldn't be taught: an unbreakable determination to prove she belonged. During her second year, she met Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez during a leadership seminar. Rodriguez was a Marine Corps officer who had served 3 tours in Afghanistan, and she became the first person to see past Amanda's quiet demeanor to recognize her potential. "Chun," Rodriguez told her after class one day, "you have something. Most officers never develop genuine empathy for your people. Don't lose that." Those words stayed with Amanda throughout her remaining years at the academy. She began to understand that leadership wasn't about being the loudest voice in the room or the fastest runner on the track. It was about creating an environment where others could succeed, about making decisions that served something larger than personal ambition. After graduation, Amanda was commissioned as an ensign in the Navy's Intelligence Division. Her first assignment took her to Norfolk Naval Base in Virginia, where she worked analyzing satellite imagery and communications intercepts. The work was meticulous and often tedious, but Amanda threw herself into it with characteristic intensity. She learned to spot patterns others missed, to connect seemingly unrelated pieces of information into coherent intelligence reports. It was during her second year at Norfolk that Amanda first encountered the Navy SEALs. A joint intelligence operation required her to brief a SEAL team preparing for a classified mission overseas. As she stood in front of 6 of the military's most elite warriors, explaining enemy positions and potential threats, she felt something she had never experienced before: absolute clarity about her purpose. These men would put their lives on the line based on the intelligence she provided. Every detail mattered. Every assumption could mean the difference between mission success and tragedy. For the first time, Amanda understood the real weight of military service, not the ceremonies or the uniforms, but the profound responsibility to protect those who protect others. The mission was successful, and the SEAL team leader, Chief Petty Officer Marcus Thompson, sought her out afterward. "Ma'am, that was some of the best intel briefing I've received in 15 years. You understand something a lot of intelligence officers don't. We're not just numbers on a report. We're people going into harm's way." Thompson's words ignited something in Amanda. She began requesting assignments that put her closer to operational units. She volunteered for temporary duty with Marine reconnaissance teams, spent time embedded with Army Special Forces units, and earned a reputation as an intelligence officer who truly understood the needs of combat troops. But it was during a deployment to Kandahar that Amanda's life took an unexpected turn. She was working as an intelligence liaison with a Joint Special Operations Task Force when their forward operating base came under attack. Insurgents had managed to breach the perimeter during the early morning hours, and chaos erupted as personnel scrambled to defend their position. Amanda found herself trapped in the communications bunker with 2 wounded soldiers: Sergeant First Class Michael Torres, who had taken shrapnel to his leg, and Corporal Jennifer Walsh, who was unconscious from a head injury. The main communications array had been damaged, cutting them off from nearby support units. For 3 hours, Amanda applied tourniquets, administered 4 fluids, and maintained radio contact with friendly forces while coordinating their extraction. When the rescue helicopter finally arrived, the medic who treated Torres told Amanda that her quick thinking had saved his life. "Ma'am, if you hadn't controlled that bleeding when you did, he would have bled out long before we got here." That night, as Amanda sat alone in her quarters, she realized something fundamental had changed within her. She had always been good at her job, but now she understood what it meant to be responsible for keeping people alive. The academic exercises and theoretical scenarios of her training had become viscerally real. 6 months later, Amanda received orders that would change everything. She was being transferred to a classified program with a Naval Special Warfare Command. The assignment came with a security clearance upgrade and a warning that her new role would require unconventional approaches to intelligence gathering and analysis. She arrived at the nondescript office building in Virginia Beach on a gray Monday morning in February. The receptionist, a stern woman in her 50s named Patricia Williams, handed her a temporary badge and directed her to Conference Room C. "Miss Chun, they're waiting for you." Amanda walked down a corridor lined with photographs of naval operations dating back to World War II. She paused at an image of fragmen, the Navy's underwater demolition specialists, who would eventually become the SEALs preparing for the D-Day invasion. These men had pioneered the techniques that modern special operations forces still use today. Conference Room C was smaller than she had expected, with no windows and soundproofing material visible along the walls. Seated around the table were 5 men and 1 woman, all in civilian clothes, but carrying themselves with the unmistakable bearing of military professionals. At the head of the table sat a man in his early 40s with steel-gray eyes and the kind of weathered face that spoke of years spent in hostile environments. "Lieutenant Chun," he said, standing to shake her hand. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison. Welcome to Task Force Crimson." Morrison gestured for her to take a seat, then launched into a briefing that would have sounded like science fiction to most people. Task Force Crimson was a joint special operations unit that handled what Morrison diplomatically called sensitive missions requiring specialized intelligence support. In practical terms, this meant Amanda would be working with some of the military's most elite operators on missions that officially didn't exist. Your job, Morrison explained, will be to provide real-time intelligence analysis for operations that can't wait for traditional bureaucratic processes. You'll be embedded with SEAL teams, Delta Force units, and other special operations forces, sometimes for weeks at a time. Sometimes in places that aren't supposed to have American military personnel. Amanda felt her pulse quicken. This was exactly the kind of work she had been hoping for: challenging, meaningful, and directly connected to protecting American lives. But Morrison wasn't finished. There's one more thing, Lieutenant. Some of our operations require cover identities. Civilian personas that allow our people to move freely in environments where military presence would compromise the mission. Part of your role will be developing and maintaining such identities when necessary. Over the following months, Amanda threw herself into her new assignment with typical intensity. She learned advanced surveillance techniques, studied foreign languages, and became proficient with weapon systems she had never imagined touching during her academy days. More importantly, she learned to think like the operators she supported, to anticipate needs, identify vulnerabilities, and make split-second decisions with incomplete information. Her first major deployment came 8 months after joining Task Force Crimson. The mission took her to Eastern Europe, where she spent 6 weeks posing as a telecommunications consultant while gathering intelligence on arms trafficking networks. The cover story held perfectly, and the intelligence she provided enabled a joint operation that seized over $2 million worth of weapons, destined for terrorist organizations. But it was during her second deployment that Amanda made a decision that would haunt her for years to come. The mission required her to pose as the girlfriend of a suspected arms dealer named Viktor Kozlov, a Russian expatriate living in Montenegro. The operation was supposed to last 2 weeks, just long enough to plant surveillance devices in his apartment and identify his network contacts. Instead, it lasted 3 months. Kozlov proved to be far more cautious and intelligent than initial intelligence reports suggested. He varied his routines, used multiple cell phones, and conducted business in locations that made traditional surveillance nearly impossible. Amanda found herself drawn deeper into his world, attending parties with international criminals, traveling to meetings in countries where American intelligence had no official presence. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The psychological strain was enormous. Every day, Amanda had to balance maintaining her cover identity with gathering the intelligence her mission required. She couldn't contact her handlers through normal channels, couldn't follow her usual routines, couldn't even be herself. She was living a lie 24 hours a day, and that lie was slowly eating away at her sense of identity. The breaking point came during a party at Kozlov's villa overlooking the Adriatic Sea. Amanda had been drinking wine just enough to maintain her cover as a socialite girlfriend when she overheard a conversation that changed everything. Kozlov was discussing a weapons shipment bound for a terrorist cell in Syria. But this wasn't just any weapons shipment. It included chemical components that could be used to create improvised chemical weapons. Amanda excused herself to use the bathroom and immediately began texting coded messages to her handler. But as she was typing, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Kozlov's bodyguard, a massive Serbian named Dragan, was walking toward the bathroom. Amanda quickly deleted her message and flushed the toilet, but she knew her window for communication had closed. For the next week, Amanda watched helplessly as Kozlov finalized arrangements for the chemical weapons shipment. She tried twice more to contact her handlers, but each time, circumstances prevented her from completing the communication. Meanwhile, she knew that somewhere in Syria, terrorists were waiting for components that could kill hundreds of innocent people. Finally, Amanda made a decision that violated every protocol she had been taught. She couldn't wait for official authorization or backup support. She had to act using skills she had learned during her special operations training. Amanda broke into Kozlov's home office late one night while he was attending a business dinner. She photographed his computer files, copied data from his phone, and planted a small tracking device in his briefcase. Then she sent everything to her handlers through an encrypted satellite communication system that would expose her presence, but ensure the intelligence reached American forces in time to intercept the weapons shipment. The operation was successful. The chemical weapons were seized before reaching Syria, and Kozlov's entire network was rolled up within a week. But Amanda's unauthorized actions had consequences. She was immediately extracted from Montenegro and flown back to Virginia for debriefing and disciplinary action. Commander Morrison was waiting for her when she arrived at the Task Force Crimson facility. His expression was unreadable as he led her to a secure debriefing room. "Lieutenant Chun," he said, closing the door behind them, "you saved a lot of lives with your actions in Montenegro. But you also violated direct orders and compromised operational security. I have to ask, do you understand the seriousness of what you did?" Amanda met his gaze steadily. "Yes, sir. I understand that I disobeyed orders. But I also understand that chemical weapons are now not in the hands of terrorists who would have used them against innocent civilians. Given the same circumstances, I would make the same decision again." Morrison studied her for a long moment. "That's exactly what I was hoping you would say. Lieutenant, what you did required the kind of moral courage that can't be taught in any training program. You put mission success and human lives ahead of your own career prospects. That's the mark of a true special operations professional." Amanda felt a wave of relief wash over her, but Morrison wasn't finished. "However, there will be consequences. Your actions, while morally correct, created complications that will affect your future assignments. Some people in the intelligence community now view you as unpredictable. That perception will follow you for the rest of your career." And Morrison was right. Over the following 2 years, Amanda found herself increasingly isolated within the special operations community. Her technical skills were unquestioned, her operational instincts were proven, but many commanders were reluctant to trust her with sensitive assignments. She had been labeled as someone who might go rogue when the stakes were high, a reputation that made her valuable in some contexts but dangerous in others. It was during this period of professional limbo that Amanda received an unexpected phone call from Patricia Williams, the receptionist at Task Force Crimson. "Miss Chun," Williams said, "there's a position opening up with a private military contractor called Blackwater Security Solutions. They're looking for someone with your particular skill set and experience. The work is similar to what you did with us, but the pay is significantly better, and there would be more operational autonomy." Amanda had heard of Blackwater, a private military company that provided security services to government agencies and corporate clients. The work would be challenging and well compensated, but it would also mean leaving active military service to become what some people derisively called a mercenary. "What kind of position?" Amanda asked. "Intelligence analysis and operational planning for high-risk security assignments. You would be working with former special operations personnel on missions that regular military units can't or won't handle. The clients include government agencies, international corporations, and humanitarian organizations operating in dangerous areas." Amanda spent 2 weeks considering the offer. She loved military service, but she also recognized that her career prospects within the Navy had been permanently damaged by her actions in Montenegro. Blackwater offered a chance to continue doing meaningful work while rebuilding her professional reputation. She submitted her resignation from the Navy on a Thursday morning in September. By Friday afternoon, she was sitting in the Blackwater offices in Virginia, signing a contract that would change her life in ways she couldn't imagine. The transition to private military contracting was jarring. Instead of the structured hierarchy and clear chain of command she was accustomed to in the military, Blackwater operated more like a corporation with military characteristics. Personnel came and went based on contract assignments. Loyalty was measured in quarterly performance reviews rather than unit cohesion, and the mission was profit as much as security. But the work itself was exactly what Amanda had been seeking. Her first assignment took her to Nigeria, where she provided intelligence support for a security detail protecting oil company executives. The threat environment was complex local criminal groups, political insurgents, and international terrorists. All operated in the region, often with overlapping interests and shifting alliances. Amanda spent 3 months in Lagos, developing human intelligence networks and analyzing threat patterns. Her reports enabled the security team to prevent 2 kidnapping attempts and 1 bombing attack. When the assignment ended, the client specifically requested her for future operations. Over the next year, Amanda worked assignments in Colombia, Afghanistan, Iraq, and the Philippines. Each mission presented unique challenges, but her reputation for thorough analysis and sound judgment grew steadily within the private military community. She began receiving offers from other contracting companies, some with significantly higher compensation packages, but Amanda remained with Blackwater for reasons that had nothing to do with money. Despite the corporate structure and profit motives, she had found a group of professionals who shared her commitment to excellence and mission success. Many of her colleagues were former special operations personnel who had left military service for various reasons, but continued to seek challenging, meaningful work. It was during a brief break between assignments that Amanda made a decision that would come to define the next phase of her life. She had always been fascinated by the history and traditions of the units she supported, particularly the Navy SEALs. Their combination of physical prowess, mental toughness, and unwavering commitment to their teammates represented everything she admired about military service. On a Saturday afternoon in Norfolk, Amanda walked into a tattoo parlor called Anchor Inc. and asked the artist to show her designs related to naval special warfare. The artist, a former Navy sailor named Tommy Rodriguez, showed her several options, but one immediately caught her attention: the Navy SEAL Trident. "Ma'am," Rodriguez said carefully, "that's a sacred symbol in the military community. It represents something that has to be earned through some of the most challenging training in the world. Are you sure that's what you want?" Amanda understood his concern. The SEAL Trident wasn't just a decorative symbol. It was a mark of identity that carried profound meaning within the military community. SEALs wore it as a badge of honor that represented months of grueling training, years of dangerous missions, and an unbreakable bond with their teammates. But as Amanda looked at the design, she felt something she had never experienced before: a deep, inexplicable connection to what it represented. Not the exclusive club of SEAL operators, but the ideals they embodied: courage, honor, commitment, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for something larger than personal gain. "I know what it means," Amanda told Rodriguez, "and I know I haven't earned the right to wear it in the traditional sense. But this isn't about claiming membership in an exclusive club. It's about committing myself to live up to the standards that symbol represents." Rodriguez studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I can respect that, ma'am. But understand that if you ever encounter real SEALs, they might not see it the same way." Amanda had the trident tattooed on her left shoulder that afternoon. As Rodriguez worked, she made a private vow that she would never dishonor what the symbol represented. She would continue to serve others, to put mission success ahead of personal comfort, and to maintain the highest standards of professional conduct. For 3 years, Amanda managed to keep the tattoo hidden. She wore long sleeves and high neck shirts, chose clothing that concealed her shoulders, and never spoke about her decision to anyone. The trident became a private reminder of her commitment to excellence, visible only to herself. But now, sitting in Conference Room C at Blackwater Security Solutions, that private symbol was about to become very public. Amanda could feel the weight of 12 pairs of eyes as she slowly unbuttoned her blazer. In a few seconds, everything would change. She had no idea that Commander Jake Morrison, the same man who had recruited her to Task Force Crimson years earlier, was about to recognize something that would force both of them to confront a truth that neither was prepared to face. Amanda's blazer hit the floor with a soft thud that seemed to echo through the silent conference room. The air conditioning hummed overhead as she sat there in her sleeveless blouse, the navy blue SEAL Trident tattoo clearly visible on her left shoulder. The intricate design showed the eagle clutching both the anchor and the trident, with Neptune's spear piercing through, every detail rendered with professional precision. Commander Morrison's coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. His face went completely blank, the kind of expression that comes from years of training to control emotional reactions in high-stakes situations. But Amanda caught the slight twitch in his left eye, the barely perceptible tightening of his jaw muscles. Silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Around the table, the other Blackwater executives shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Director Patricia Walsh, a former CIA operative with silver hair and calculating eyes, leaned forward slightly. The two military contractors, both ex-Army Rangers, exchanged quick glances. The corporate lawyer, Michael Brennan, adjusted his tie nervously. "Interesting artwork," Morrison finally said, his voice carefully neutral. He set down his coffee cup with deliberate precision. "Where did you have that done?" Amanda's throat felt dry, but she maintained eye contact. "Norfolk." "About 3 years ago, Norfolk." Morrison repeated the word as if he were testing its weight. "And the significance?" The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Amanda knew she was walking into a minefield, but backing down now would be worse than whatever consequences awaited her honesty. "It represents the standards I hold myself to," she said. "The commitment to excellence, to teamwork, to never leaving anyone behind." Morrison's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Recognition, perhaps. Or maybe disappointment. Director Walsh cleared her throat. "Ms. Chen, while we appreciate symbolism, we're more concerned with practical qualifications. Your service record shows extensive intelligence experience, but this position requires someone who can work directly with our most elite contractors. Many of them are former Navy SEALs." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Amanda understood the subtext immediately. How would genuine SEALs react to someone wearing their sacred symbol without having earned it through the crucible of Booty-S training? "I understand the concerns," Amanda replied. "But my record speaks for itself. I've worked successfully with special operations personnel throughout my career. I've never claimed to be something I'm not." "But you're wearing something you're not," said Thomas Crawford, one of the ex-Rangers. His voice carried an edge that could cut glass. "That trident isn't a fashion statement. Men have died earning the right to wear it." Amanda felt heat rising in her cheeks, but she forced herself to remain calm. "You're absolutely right. Men have died earning that right. And I've seen some of those men come home in flag-draped coffins because the intelligence they received wasn't good enough. Every time I look at this tattoo, I'm reminded that my work has life and death consequences." Morrison held up a hand, silencing Crawford before he could respond. "Ms. Chen, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about qualifications or experience, it's about fit. About whether you can work effectively with people who might take your tattoo as a personal insult." "Then test me," Amanda said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. Give me an assignment with your most skeptical SEAL contractors. Let my work prove itself." Walsh and Morrison exchanged a look that seemed to carry an entire conversation. Finally, Walsh nodded almost imperceptibly. "Very well," Morrison said. "We have a situation developing in Southeast Asia. High-value client, maximum risk environment, short timeline. The team leader is—" He paused, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Let's say he's particular about who he works with." Amanda sensed this was more than a simple job assignment. It felt like a trial by fire, designed to either vindicate her or expose her as a fraud. "What's the mission?" she asked. Morrison reached into his briefcase and withdrew a manila folder, marked with red classification tape. "Robert Harrison, CEO of Harrison Energy Corporation. He's been negotiating a natural gas deal with the Indonesian government. 3 days ago, his security detail reported suspicious surveillance around his hotel in Jakarta. Yesterday, we intercepted communication suggesting a kidnapping plot by the Jemaah Islamiyah terrorist network." He slid the folder across the table. To Amanda, "Harrison refuses to leave Indonesia until the deal is finalized. He's convinced that canceling now would cost his company hundreds of millions in future contracts. Our job is to keep him alive while he finishes his negotiations." Amanda opened the folder and immediately understood why this assignment would be particularly challenging. The threat assessment ran to 15 pages, detailing multiple hostile groups operating in the region. Jakarta's dense urban environment offered countless opportunities for ambush or kidnapping, and Harrison's insistence on maintaining a normal business schedule made protection exponentially more difficult. "Who's the team leader?" she asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Morrison's smile broadened slightly. "Master Chief Petty Officer Daniel Murphy. 22 years as a SEAL, 6 combat deployments, currently on extended leave from active duty while recovering from injuries sustained in Afghanistan. He's been working with us for 8 months. Amanda's stomach dropped. Murphy's reputation preceded him even into civilian contracting circles. He was known as a consummate professional, but also as someone who held rigid standards for everyone around him. If anyone would object to her tattoo, it would be someone like Murphy. "When do I leave?" she asked. "Tomorrow morning. Murphy's already in Jakarta with a preliminary security team. You'll be joining them as the intelligence analyst and threat assessment coordinator." Morrison leaned back in his chair. "Ms. Chen, I want to be absolutely clear about something. This assignment will either establish your credibility with our organization or end your employment with us. There's no middle ground." Amanda nodded, understanding the stakes completely. "I wouldn't expect anything less." The rest of the meeting covered logistical details, travel arrangements, communication protocols, equipment requirements. But Amanda's mind was already racing ahead to Jakarta, imagining her first encounter with Master Chief Murphy. She had worked with SEALs before, but never under these circumstances, never while wearing their sacred symbol on her skin. That evening, Amanda sat in her Virginia Beach apartment, packing her gear for the Indonesian assignment. Her hands moved automatically through the familiar routine: encrypted laptop, satellite communication device, tactical clothing, personal protection equipment. But her mind kept returning to the moment in the conference room when Morrison had seen her tattoo. She walked to her bathroom mirror and examined the Trident design in the harsh fluorescent light. Every line was perfect, every detail authentic to the original SEAL insignia. Tommy Rodriguez had done exceptional work. But looking at it now, Amanda wondered if she had made a terrible mistake 3 years ago. The tattoo had seemed like a private commitment then, a personal reminder of the standards she wanted to uphold. She had never imagined it would become a public symbol that others could judge her by. Now she was flying into a situation where that judgment could cost her everything: her career, her reputation, possibly even her life if it undermined team. Cohesion in a dangerous environment. Amanda's phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Shun, Murphy here. Wheels up 0600 sharp. Don't be late. We'll discuss your qualifications when you arrive." The tone was professional but carried an unmistakable coolness. Amanda wondered how much Morrison had told Murphy about the tattoo situation. Probably everything. SEALs were notorious for their tight-knit community and information sharing. She texted back, "Understood. See you at 0600. The response came immediately. "It's see you at 0600, Master Chief. We'll work on proper military courtesy when you get here." Amanda stared at the message, feeling a familiar mixture of frustration and determination. Murphy was already testing her, already establishing the dynamic between them. She understood the game. He was the experienced operator. She was the civilian contractor, who needed to prove herself worthy of his time and trust. But Amanda had played similar games throughout her military career. She knew how to earn respect from skeptical warriors, how to demonstrate competence without appearing arrogant. More importantly, she knew that actions always spoke louder than words in the special operations community. She spent the rest of the evening reviewing everything she could find about the Indonesian political situation, Jemaah Islamia's operational methods, and Harrison Energy Corporation's business dealings in Southeast Asia. By the time she finally went to bed, Amanda had identified 17 potential vulnerabilities in Harrison's schedule and drafted preliminary recommendations for route security and venue hardening. Sleep came fitfully, filled with dreams of jungle operations and shadowy figures watching from darkened buildings. Amanda woke before her alarm, showered quickly, and dressed in practical travel clothing that completely concealed her tattoo. Whatever happened in Jakarta, she wanted Murphy to judge her work before he judged her ink. The flight to Indonesia took 23 hours with connections in Los Angeles and Singapore. Amanda used the time to study detailed maps of Jakarta, memorize the faces of known Jemaah Islamia operatives, and refine her threat assessment. By the time the plane touched down at Soekarno-Hatta International Airport, she had developed a comprehensive security protocol that accounted for every aspect of Harrison's remaining business schedule. Jakarta hit her like a physical force: the humid air, the cacophony of traffic, the overwhelming sensory overload of 8 million people going about their daily lives. Amanda moved through customs with practiced efficiency, her diplomatic passport expediting the process. A driver was waiting with a sign bearing her name, but she noticed 2 other men nearby who were clearly providing overwatch security. The ride to the hotel took 45 minutes through traffic that defied description. Amanda used the time to observe the urban landscape, identifying potential choke points, escape routes, and surveillance positions. Jakarta was a security nightmare. Countless buildings, endless crowds, and infrastructure that hadn't been designed with protective details in mind. The JW Marriott Jakarta stood like a gleaming tower amid the urban chaos. Amanda's trained eye immediately noted the security measures already in place: discrete barriers channeling pedestrian traffic, additional guards at the entrance, and what appeared to be counter-surveillance teams in the lobby. She was checking in at the front desk when a voice behind her said, "You must be Chun." Amanda turned to find herself face to face with Master Chief Daniel Murphy. He was shorter than she had expected, maybe 5'9", but built like a compressed spring. His graying hair was cut in a precise military style, and his pale blue eyes seemed to catalog every detail of her appearance in a single glance. "Master Chief Murphy," Amanda said, extending her hand. "Thank you for having me on the team." Murphy's handshake was firm but brief. "We'll see how thankful you are after the briefing. Follow me." He led her through the lobby to a private elevator that required a key card to operate. As they rode up to the 15th floor, Murphy remained silent, But Amanda could feel him studying her with the intensity of a predator evaluating potential prey. The elevator opened directly into a suite that had been converted into a tactical operations center. Computer monitors displayed real-time feeds from security cameras throughout the hotel. Communications equipment hummed quietly in one corner. Maps of Jakarta covered an entire wall, marked with colored pins indicating known threats and safe routes. 3 other men occupied the room, all carrying themselves with the unmistakable bearing of special operations veterans. Murphy gestured toward them without ceremony. Rodriguez, former SEAL Team 6, Williams Delta Force, Thompson, Marine Force Recon. Gentlemen, this is our new intelligence analyst, Amanda Chun. The introductions were polite but reserved. Amanda could sense the men evaluating her, wondering what qualifications she brought to their tight-knit team. She was accustomed to such scrutiny, but something felt different here, more personal. "All right, Chen," Murphy said, settling into a chair at the head of a conference table. "Show us what you've got. What's your assessment of the threat environment?" Amanda opened her laptop and activated the room's presentation system. For the next 20 minutes, she walked the team through her analysis: terrorist capabilities, likely attack vectors, vulnerabilities in Harrison's schedule, and recommended countermeasures. She spoke with quiet confidence, backing up every assertion with specific intelligence and operational precedence. When she finished, the room was silent. Finally, Rodriguez spoke up. "That's solid work, very thorough." He looked at Murphy. "Master Chief, I think we can work with this." Murphy nodded slowly, but his expression remained unreadable. "Chun, step outside for a moment. We need to discuss team dynamics." Amanda felt her stomach tighten, but she complied without protest. She waited in the hallway for 10 minutes, listening to the muffled sound of voices from inside the suite. When Murphy finally opened the door, his face was grim. "We need to talk," he said, privately. Murphy led Amanda to a smaller room down the hall, a standard hotel suite that had been stripped of unnecessary furniture and converted into a private meeting space. The windows were covered with blackout curtains, and Amanda noticed a white noise generator humming quietly in the corner to prevent electronic surveillance. Murphy closed the door behind them and turned to face her. For a long moment, he simply stood there, his pale blue eyes studying her with an intensity that made Amanda feel like a specimen under a microscope. "Sit down," he said finally, gesturing to one of 2 chairs positioned facing each other. Amanda complied, keeping her posture straight and her hands relaxed in her lap. She had been through enough interrogations during her military career to know that body language spoke as loudly as words. Murphy remained standing, a classic interrogation technique designed to establish psychological dominance. "Chun, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want straight answers. No military politeness. No corporate diplomacy. Just truth. Can you handle that?" "Yes, Master Chief. Good." Murphy began pacing slowly, his footsteps muffled by the thick hotel carpet. "I've read your service record. Naval Academy, Intelligence Division, Task Force Crimson. Impressive on paper. But there's something missing from your file. Something that Commander Morrison felt I should know about directly." Amanda's pulse quickened, but she kept her voice steady. "What would that be, Master Chief?" Murphy stopped pacing and fixed her with a stare that could have melted steel. "You tell me. What's something about you that might affect team cohesion?" On this mission, the moment of truth had arrived. Amanda could try to deflect, could play dumb, could force Murphy to bring up the tattoo himself. But she had learned long ago that honesty, however painful, was always the better strategy with men like Murphy. "I have a Navy SEAL Trident tattooed on my left shoulder," she said quietly. Murphy's expression didn't change, but Amanda caught a slight tightening around his eyes. "I see. And when did you earn that trident?" "I didn't earn it, Master Chief. I've never been through Bud-S training. I'm not a SEAL. Then why the hell are you wearing our symbol? The question came out like a whip crack, laden with months of frustration and barely controlled anger. Amanda realized this conversation was about much more than her tattoo. It was about identity, belonging, and the sacred bonds that held elitary units together. Because it reminds me every day of the standards I want to live up to, Amanda said. The courage, the commitment, the willingness to put mission success ahead of personal comfort. I know I haven't earned the right to wear it in the traditional sense, but I've tried to honor what it represents. Murphy was quiet for a long moment, processing her words. When he spoke again, his voice was calmer but still carried an edge of steel. Chun, do you know what Hell Week is? Yes, Master Chief. The most challenging phase of BUD/AS training. 6 days of continuous physical and mental stress designed to eliminate candidates who don't have the necessary determination. 5.5 days, Murphy corrected. 132 hours of constant movement, sleep deprivation, hypothermia, and physical punishment that would break most people in the first 12 hours. I've seen Olympic athletes quit on the first day. I've seen Marines who survived multiple combat tours ring the bell before Wednesday. Murphy sat down across from her, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. On Thursday night of my Hell Week, I was so exhausted I couldn't remember my own name. My feet were bleeding through my boots, I was hypothermic, and I was hallucinating from sleep deprivation. The instructors put us in the surf for what felt like hours, just lying there in 50-degree water while they screamed at us to quit. Amanda remained silent, sensing that Murphy was sharing something deeply personal. There was a moment when I knew I was going to die if I stayed in that water. My body was shutting down, my mind was gone, and the only rational decision was to stand up and ring that bell. But I looked to my left and saw my swim buddy, a kid from Ohio named Peterson. He was in worse shape than I was, but he was still fighting, still refusing to quit. Murphy's voice grew softer, more reflective. I realized in that moment that the Trident isn't about individual toughness. It's about the willingness to keep fighting when everything inside you wants to quit, not for yourself, but for the person next to you. Peterson and I carried each other through the rest of Hell Week. He saved my life, and I like to think I saved his. Amanda felt the weight of Murphy's words, understanding that he was explaining something fundamental about the SEAL ethos that couldn't be learned from books or training manuals. Peterson was killed in Iraq 2 years later, Murphy continued. ID explosion during a direct action mission. When I got the call, the first thing I thought about was that night in the surf. How he refused to quit when quitting was the only rational choice. That's what the Trident means to me. It's not a symbol of individual achievement. It's a reminder of the people who didn't make it home. Murphy leaned back in his chair, studying Amanda's face. Now you tell me why you think you have the right to wear that symbol. Amanda took a deep breath, knowing that her answer would determine not just her future with this mission, but her entire relationship with the Special Operations community. You're right, Master Chief. I haven't been through Hell Week. I haven't carried a swim buddy through the surf or lost teammates in combat. But I have made decisions where other people's lives depended on my courage and competence. I've stayed awake for days analyzing intelligence because I knew that SEALs like Peterson were going into harm's way based on my work. She paused, choosing her words carefully. In Montenegro, I violated direct orders because I knew that chemical weapons were about to reach terrorists who would use them against innocent people. I risked my career, my freedom, and my life because the mission was more important than my personal safety. Maybe that doesn't earn me the right to wear the Trident, but it means I understand what it represents. Murphy was quiet for several minutes, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. Chun, I'm going to tell you something that doesn't leave this room. 3 months ago, I lost a team member in Afghanistan. Good kid, solid operator, but he made a mistake during a night raid. Relied on bad intelligence that got him killed and nearly got the rest of us killed too. Amanda felt her stomach drop, wondering if Murphy was somehow blaming her for faulty intelligence she had never provided. The intelligence came from a contractor, Murphy continued. Someone who prioritized speed over accuracy because they were worried about missing a deadline. That kid died because someone cut corners on their job. Murphy stood up and walked to the window, looking out through a gap in the blackout curtains at the Jakarta skyline. I've been angry about that for months. Angry at contractors who don't understand the weight of their decisions. Angry at people who think this work is just another corporate job. When Morrison told me about your tattoo, I figured you were just another civilian playing soldier. He turned back to face Amanda, and she was surprised to see something that might have been respect in his eyes, but your work downstairs was professional. Thorough, the kind of analysis that keeps people alive. And your explanation just now, it tells me you understand that intelligence work isn't academic, it's personal. Murphy walked back to his chair and sat down heavily. Here's the situation, Chun. I still think you made a mistake getting that tattoo. It's going to cause problems with other SEALs who don't know you. But I also think you're someone I can work with. Someone who takes the mission seriously. Amanda felt a wave of relief, but Murphy held up a hand before she could respond. However, there are conditions. First, you keep that tattoo covered while we're operational. I don't need my team distracted by philosophical debates about military symbolism. Second, you prove yourself through performance, not explanations. If you want respect from operators, you earn it through competence. Understood, Master Chief. Third, Murphy said, his voice taking on a harder edge, if you ever compromise operational security or team safety because you're trying to prove something, I will personally ensure that you never work in this field again. Are we clear? Crystal clear, Master Chief. Murphy nodded slowly. Good. Now let's get back to work. Harrison has a meeting with Indonesian energy officials in 4 hours, and the location has more security vulnerabilities than I'm comfortable with. As they walked back to the operations center, Amanda felt the first stirring of hope that this assignment might actually succeed. Murphy was still skeptical of her, still testing her, but he was also treating her as a professional member of the team. The other team members looked up as they entered the room. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow questioningly at Murphy, who responded with a barely perceptible nod. All right, people, Murphy said, settling back into his chair at the head of the table. Let's talk about the Ministry of Energy building. Chun, show us what you found. Amanda activated the presentation system and displayed a 3-dimensional model of the building where Harrison's meeting would take place. She had spent the flight to Jakarta studying architectural plans, satellite imagery, and historical security incidents in the area. The building has 3 primary vulnerabilities, she began, pointing to specific locations on the model. Limited exits on the upper floors, no internal security barriers, and a parking structure that provides concealment for surveillance or explosive devices. Thompson, the Marine Force Recon veteran, leaned forward. What about the surrounding area? Sniper positions? Amanda switched to a street-level view showing buildings within rifle range of the ministry. 17 possible overwatch positions, including this office building to the northeast and this apartment complex to the west. I've identified the specific floors and windows that would provide clear sight lines. Williams, the former Delta Force operator, studied the display intently. Extraction routes? 3 primary options, Amanda replied, highlighting different paths through the Jakarta street grid. The main route follows Jalan Medan Merdeka, but it passes through 2 potential choke points. The alternate routes are longer, but offer better maneuverability. For the next hour, the team worked through every aspect of the protection detail. Amanda found herself accepted into the planning process, her suggestions treated with the same respect as those from the more experienced operators. Murphy said little, but she caught him watching her work with what might have been approval. As the briefing concluded, Rodriguez approached her quietly. "Hey, Chun," he said, keeping his voice low enough that the others couldn't hear. "Whatever Murphy said to you in there, it worked. He's been like a bear with a sore tooth since he found out about your ink. Now he actually seems willing to work with you." Amanda glanced toward Murphy, who was reviewing security camera feeds with Williams. "He's a professional. We'll make it work." Rodriguez grinned. "Lady, I've worked with Murphy for 8 months. He doesn't compromise on standards, and he doesn't forgive mistakes. If he's giving you a chance, it's because he sees something worth respecting." The comment stayed with Amanda as she prepared for the evening's mission. She had passed the first test, but she knew that Murphy and his team would be watching every decision she made, evaluating whether she truly deserved to work alongside them. As she checked her equipment one final time, Amanda caught herself unconsciously touching her left shoulder where the Trident tattoo lay hidden beneath her tactical shirt. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to prove herself worthy of the symbol she wore. But tonight, for the first time in months, she felt like she might actually belong somewhere. The Indonesian Ministry of Energy building loomed against the gray Jakarta morning sky like a concrete fortress. Amanda studied it through the tinted windows of their armored Suburban as the convoy approached the designated drop-off point. Her earpiece crackled with steady communication between team members positioned throughout the area. "Overwatch 1, status report." Murphy's voice came through clearly from his position in the lead vehicle. "All clear from the northeast tower." Rodriguez responded. "No unusual movement, no reflection signatures." "Overwatch 2, checking in," Williams added from the apartment building to the west. "Negative on suspicious activity. Traffic patterns are normal." Amanda monitored the radio traffic while simultaneously tracking their convoy's progress on her tablet. The real-time GPS display showed their 3-vehicle formation moving through the carefully planned route they had rehearsed the night before. Everything was proceeding exactly according to plan, which made her nervous. "Phoenix Base, this is Mobile 1. Thompson's voice came from the command vehicle following behind them. "Target building secured, all entry points under observation." Robert Harrison sat beside Amanda in the middle seat, reviewing documents. For his meeting while seemingly oblivious to the intense security operation surrounding him. The CEO was a tall, silver-haired man in his early 60s who carried himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to having difficult problems solved by other people. "Ms. Chun," Harrison said without looking up from his papers. "How much longer until we arrive?" 3 minutes, sir," Amanda replied, checking her watch. "The advance team reports all clear at the destination." Harrison nodded absently and returned to his documents. Amanda envied his ability to remain calm under circumstances that had her calculating escape routes and threat vectors every 30 seconds. She supposed that running a multi-billion-dollar energy corporation required its own form of courage. Their driver, a local security contractor named Bambang, navigated the morning traffic with practiced skill. Amanda had insisted on using Indonesian nationals for certain support roles. They understood local traffic patterns, police procedures, and cultural nuances that could prove crucial in an emergency. "Mobile 1, this is Phoenix Base," Murphy's voice crackled through the radio. "We have eyes on 3 motorcycles maintaining consistent distance behind your convoy. Could be surveillance." Amanda immediately activated the rear-facing camera display on her tablet. 3 motorcycles were indeed following them, weaving through traffic approximately 200 meters back. In Jakarta's chaotic traffic environment, motorcycles were everywhere, but these 3 seemed to be maintaining formation rather than behaving like typical commuters. "Copy, Phoenix Base," Amanda responded. "Implementing counter-surveillance protocol Charlie." She tapped Bambang on the shoulder and spoke in the Indonesian she had studied during the flight. "Bung, below Kiri di Jalan Barakutnya. Turn left at the next street." Bambang nodded and smoothly executed the turn onto a side street that would take them away from their planned route. Amanda watched the camera feed intently. 2 of the motorcycles continued straight, but the third followed them onto the side street. Phoenix Base, we have 1 motorcycle maintaining pursuit. Recommend immediate route adjustment to secondary. Approach. Negative Mobile 1. Murphy's voice came back immediately. Maintain current heading. We're repositioning to intercept. Amanda felt her pulse quicken. Murphy was making a tactical decision to confront potential surveillance rather than continue evasive maneuvers. It was an aggressive choice that could either eliminate a threat or escalate a situation unnecessarily. Harrison finally looked up from his documents, sensing the tension in the vehicle. Is there a problem, Ms. Chun? Just a routine security. Check, sir, Amanda replied, keeping her voice calm while monitoring 3 different radio channels simultaneously. We'll be at the Ministry building in 5 minutes. Through her earpiece, she could hear Murphy coordinating with Rodriguez and Williams to create an intercept pattern for the motorcycle. The precision of their communication reminded her of her days supporting SEAL operations. Every word carefully chosen, every instruction immediately understood and executed. Mobile 1, turn right at the next intersection, Murphy directed. Overwatch 1 is moving to intercept motorcycle from the north. Amanda relayed the instruction to Bambang, who executed another smooth turn. Through the rear camera, she watched Rodriguez's motorcycle emerge from a parallel street and begin closing the distance to their tail. The suspected surveillance rider immediately accelerated, weaving through traffic in an apparent attempt to escape. Contact! Contact! Rodriguez's voice exploded through the radio. Motorcycle riders are armed. I can see a pistol in his waistband. The situation had just escalated from surveillance to active threat. Amanda felt her training take over, her mind automatically shifting into crisis management mode. Bambang, emergency speed to the Ministry building, she ordered in Indonesian, while simultaneously keying her radio. Phoenix Base, this is Mobile 1. We have confirmed armed surveillance. Proceeding to the destination at maximum safe speed. Copy, Mobile 1, Murphy responded. All units converge on the Ministry building. Prepare for a hot arrival. Harrison's face had gone pale as he realized their situation had become genuinely dangerous. Ms. Chun, should we abort the meeting? No, sir, Amanda replied firmly. We're 90 seconds from a secure location with Indonesian government security. The safest place for you right now is inside that building. The Suburban accelerated through Jakarta traffic, Bambang using every bit of his local knowledge to navigate the crowded streets. Amanda could hear sirens in the distance, whether police responding to the motorcycle incident or emergency vehicles dealing with routine Jakarta chaos. She couldn't tell. Mobile 1, this is Overwatch 2, Williams reported. I have visual on 3 additional motorcycles approaching from the east. They appear to be moving to intercept your route. Amanda's blood ran cold. This wasn't random surveillance. It was a coordinated operation designed to either capture or eliminate Harrison. The Jemaah Islamiyah terrorist network had proven more sophisticated than their initial intelligence assessment suggested. Phoenix Base, we have multiple hostiles converging on our position, Amanda reported. Request immediate law enforcement assistance. Already in progress, Murphy replied. Indonesian National Police Tactical Unit is en route. Ada 3 minutes. 3 minutes might as well have been 3 hours. Amanda could see the Ministry of Energy building ahead, but they still had to navigate 2 more blocks through increasingly hostile territory. The motorcycles approaching from the east would reach their intersection before they could pass through. Bambang, Amanda said, switching to English so Harrison could understand. We're going to ram through that intersection. Don't stop for anything. The Indonesian driver's knuckles went white on the steering wheel, but he nodded grimly. Yeah, boo. Saya Mangerti, yes ma'am. I understand. Amanda grabbed Harrison's arm. Sir, get down below window level and stay there. Until I tell you otherwise. The first motorcycle appeared at the intersection ahead, the rider pulling what looked like an AK-47 from beneath his jacket. Amanda had perhaps 5 seconds to make a decision that would determine whether they lived or died. All units, this is Mobile 1, she broadcast. We are engaging hostile forces at grid reference 77 Alpha. Civilians in vehicle require immediate extraction support. Time seemed to slow as their Suburban approached the intersection. Amanda could see the motorcycle rider raising his weapon, could see the muzzle flash as he opened fire on their vehicle. The armored glass spider-webbed, but held as Bam Bang gunned the engine and smashed through the intersection. Taking fire! Taking fire! Amanda shouted into her radio. Multiple hostiles with automatic weapons, proceeding to the extraction point. The ministry building was now only 1 block away, but Amanda could see Indonesian police cars surrounding the area with emergency lights flashing. What should have been a safe haven now looked like a potential trap. Were the police responding to help them, or had the terrorists somehow compromised law enforcement response? Phoenix Base, I need immediate verification of police units at destination, Amanda transmitted. Cannot determine friend or foe. Murphy's response came back immediately. Police units are friendly. Colonel Suharto of Indonesian National Police is personally coordinating the response. Proceed to the main entrance. As their damaged Suburban pulled up to the ministry building, Amanda could see Murphy's team already in position around the entrance. Rodriguez was providing overwatch from the building's steps while Williams maintained communication with the Indonesian police tactical team. Harrison was shaking but uninjured as Amanda helped him from the vehicle. Miss Chun, I can't thank you enough if you hadn't been there. Just doing my job, sir, Amanda replied, but she was already scanning the surrounding area for additional threats. The motorcycle attack had been too well coordinated to be a random criminal operation. Someone had detailed intelligence about Harrison's schedule and security arrangements. Murphy approached them as they reached the building entrance, his face grim. Chun, good work getting him here alive. But we've got bigger problems. The motorcycle riders we captured are talking. This wasn't just a kidnapping attempt. Amanda felt her stomach drop. What do you mean? According to Indonesian intelligence, Jemaah Islamiyah has been planning this operation for weeks. Harrison wasn't the primary target, we were. Someone leaked information about our team composition and operational methods. This whole thing was designed to eliminate American contractors working in Indonesia. The implications hit Amanda like a physical blow. Someone with access to classified information had betrayed them to terrorists. Their security protocols, their team members' identities, their operational procedures, all of it had been compromised from the beginning. Who had access to that level of detail? Amanda asked, though she was already dreading the answer. Murphy's expression was darker than she had ever seen it. Someone with very high clearance levels. Someone who knew exactly which buttons to push to get us deployed to Jakarta. As Indonesian police escorted Harrison into the ministry building, Amanda realized that their mission was far from over. In fact, it might just be beginning. Someone had used them as bait in a larger game, and now they were trapped in Jakarta with terrorists hunting them and no way to know who they could trust. Murphy gathered his team in the building's security office while Harrison attended his meeting under heavy Indonesian government protection. The small room felt claustrophobic as the 5 Americans tried to process the magnitude of their situation. All right, people, Murphy said, his voice carrying the weight of command. We're officially off the reservation here. Someone back home burned us, and we need to figure out who and why before they finish the job. Rodriguez leaned forward in his chair. Master Chief, if this intel breach came from our side, it means someone at Blackwater or higher up the food Shane wanted us dead. That's a hell of an accusation to make without proof. The proof just tried to kill us with AK-47s, Williams replied grimly. The question is what we do about it. All eyes turned to Amanda. As the intelligence specialist, she was the logical choice to analyze the information flow and identify potential sources of the security breach. But she was also the newest member of the team, the one with the least established credibility. Murphy seemed to read her thoughts. Chun, I know we haven't worked together long, but right now you're the only one of us trained to conduct this kind of analysis. Can you backtrack the intelligence that brought us here? Amanda took a deep breath, understanding that this moment would define not just her relationship with Murphy's team, but possibly her entire future in the special operations community. Yes, Master Chief, but I'm going to need access to communication. Logs and personnel files that are way above my current clearance level. Murphy smiled grimly. Chun, given that someone just tried to kill us, I think we can safely assume normal procedures are suspended. Let's find out who sold us out. Amanda's fingers flew across her laptop keyboard as she accessed classified databases. Through the ministry building's secure internet connection, the Indonesian government had provided them with a private office equipped with military-grade communication systems, understanding that American contractors being hunted by terrorists could quickly become their problem too. I need to map every person who had access to our mission parameters, Amanda said, her screen filling with personnel files and communication logs. The leak had to come from someone who knew our team composition, arrival times, and Harrison's schedule. Murphy stood behind her, watching the data scroll past. How many people are we talking about? At Blackwater alone, probably 30 people had some level of access, Amanda replied, opening multiple windows to cross-reference information. But for someone to provide the level of detail these terrorists had, we're looking at maybe 8 to 10 individuals with complete operational knowledge. Rodriguez and Williams were monitoring communication channels while Thompson maintained watch at the office door. The building was secure, but everyone remained on high alert. Trust was now a luxury they couldn't afford. Here's something interesting, Amanda said, highlighting a section of code on her screen. All of our operational communications were routed through a specific server cluster in Virginia. But look at this traffic log from 3 days ago. She pointed to a series of data transfers that occurred at 2:17 a.m. Eastern Time. Someone accessed our complete mission files and downloaded them to an external drive. The access codes belong to ... Amanda's voice trailed off as she read the name on the screen. Her blood ran cold. Who is it, Chen? Murphy demanded. Patricia Walsh, the director who interviewed me. She had complete access to everything, our personnel files, mission, timeline, Harrison's itinerary, even our communication protocols. Murphy's jaw tightened. Walsh has been with Blackwater for 12 years. Former CIA, impeccable record. Why would she burn her own people? Amanda continued analyzing the data, following digital breadcrumbs that painted an increasingly disturbing picture. Master Chief, look at this. Walsh has been in contact with someone using an encrypted messaging service based in the Philippines. The communication pattern started 6 weeks ago, right after Harrison's Indonesian contract was finalized. Williams looked up from his radio monitoring station. How much money are we talking about for someone to sell out to American contractors? According to the Harrison Energy files, Amanda said, pulling up financial documents, this natural gas deal is worth approximately $800 million over 5 years. If competing interests wanted to derail it, they'd pay handsomely to eliminate the security team protecting the CEO, Murphy finished grimly. But that still doesn't explain how Walsh connected with Jemaah Islamiyah. Amanda dug deeper into the communication logs following connection protocols and server routes. What she found made her stomach turn. Master Chief Walsh wasn't working with the terrorists directly. She was feeding information to someone else, someone who then passed it to Jemaah Islamiyah. Who? Amanda's fingers hesitated over the keyboard. The name on her screen was someone she recognized, someone whose betrayal would shake the entire Special Operations community. Colonel Marcus Webb, U.S. Army Special Operations Command. He's been Walsh's contact. The room fell completely silent. Colonel Webb was a legend in Special Operations. Circles, a decorated veteran with 30 years of service who had commanded some of the military's most elite units. The idea that he would betray American personnel was almost incomprehensible. Murphy sank into a chair, his face pale. Webb was my commanding officer in Afghanistan. He saved my life during the operation where I was wounded. I can't believe he would. Master Chief, Amanda said gently, the data doesn't lie. Webb has been receiving detailed intelligence reports from Walsh and forwarding them through a network that ultimately reaches terrorist organizations. Rodriguez shook his head in disbelief. Why would a decorated colonel sell out to terrorists? Amanda continued her analysis following financial transactions and communication patterns. The truth was even more complex than simple betrayal. It's not about money, she said finally. Look at Webb's recent communications with Pentagon officials. He's been arguing against private military contractors for months, claiming they undermine military effectiveness and accountability. The pattern became clearer as Amanda assembled the pieces. Webb believes that contractors like us are corrupting American military operations. He's been systematically sabotaging private security missions to prove his point, that only regular military forces should handle sensitive operations. Murphy stood up abruptly, his fists clenched. So he decided to get us killed to make a political point? It gets worse, Amanda said, pulling up Webb's personnel file. He's scheduled to testify before Congress next month about reforming military contractor oversight. If several high-profile contractor teams were eliminated by terrorists, it would support his argument that private security is too dangerous to continue. Williams looked up from his communication station. Master Chief, we've got movement outside. Indonesian police report multiple vehicles approaching the ministry building. Could be another attack. Murphy immediately shifted into tactical mode. Defensive positions. Chun, can you reach anyone at Blackwater who isn't compromised? Amanda was already dialing a secure line to Virginia Beach. After 3 rings, a familiar voice answered. Blackwater Operations, this is Morrison. Commander, this is Amanda Chun in Jakarta. We have a critical situation. Patricia Walsh and Colonel Webb have been feeding our operational information to hostile forces. There was a long pause before Morrison responded. Chun, are you certain about this? Sir, I'm looking at communication logs and financial transfers. Walsh has been selling intelligence to Webb, who's been passing it to terrorist networks. They're trying to get us killed, to advance Webb's anti-contractor political agenda. Another pause. Then Morrison's voice came back, colder than she had ever heard it. Chun, Patricia Walsh is sitting in the office next to mine right now. She's been here all morning working on your extraction plan. Amanda felt the world spin around her. If Walsh was at Blackwater headquarters, then either the intelligence was wrong. Commander, Amanda said slowly, who authorized our deployment to Jakarta? Walsh did. She said the client specifically requested our most experienced team. The pieces suddenly fell into place with terrifying clarity. Amanda's fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing files she hadn't examined before. Sir, I need you to check something for me. Look at the original contract documents for the Harrison protection detail. Who was the requesting client? She could hear Morrison typing in the background. When he spoke again, his voice was tight with concern. It says Harrison Energy Corporation, but the payment authorization came through a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. Commander, Harrison Energy has no knowledge of this contract. I just reviewed their corporate communications. They never requested additional security beyond their existing arrangements. The implications hit everyone in the room simultaneously. Their entire mission had been fabricated, an elaborate trap designed to lure American contractors into a kill zone where they could be eliminated by terrorists. Morrison's voice came through the phone with deadly calm. "Shun, who's behind this?" Amanda was already tracing the shell company's financial connections, following a web of dummy corporations and offshore accounts. When she found the ultimate source, her hands began to shake. "Sir, the money trail leads back to Chinese intelligence services. This isn't about military contractor policy. It's about eliminating American Special Operations personnel operating in Southeast Asia." Murphy grabbed the phone from Amanda. "Morrison, this is Murphy. We need immediate extraction. Full diplomatic immunity, military transport, whatever it takes to get us out of Indonesia alive." "Already in motion," Morrison replied. "I've got a Navy helicopter inbound from the USS Ronald Reagan. ETA 20 minutes. But Murphy, if this intelligence is accurate, you're going to have bigger problems when you get home." "What do you mean?" "If Chinese intelligence has penetrated our contractor networks this deeply, every American private security operation in the Pacific could be compromised. This isn't just about your team, it's about national security." Williams suddenly straightened. At his monitoring station, "Master Chief, Indonesian police are reporting that the vehicles approaching us belong to American embassy security. But the embassy says they didn't dispatch any teams to our location. The trap was closing around them. Someone was using official diplomatic credentials to get close, enough to finish what the morning's motorcycle attack had started." Murphy made a command decision that would define the rest of their lives. "Everyone grab essential gear only. We're moving to the roof for helicopter extraction. Chun, can you transmit all this intelligence data to Morrison before we move?" "Already. Uploading," Amanda replied, her laptop connected to the building's high-speed military network. "Complete files on Walsh, Webb, the Chinese connection, and the financial trail. Morrison will have everything he needs to clean house." As they prepared to move, Murphy pulled Amanda aside one final time. "Chun, I need to ask you something. When we get back to the States, there's going to be a massive investigation. Congress, FBI, Pentagon, everyone's going to want to know how this happened. Are you prepared for that kind of scrutiny?" Amanda thought about the question, understanding what Murphy was really asking. Her tattoo, her unconventional background, her decision to violate orders in Montenegro, all of it would be examined under the harshest possible light. "Master Chief, 3 hours ago I was worried about whether a tattoo would cost me my career. Now I'm worried about staying alive long enough to have a career. I think I can handle some difficult questions." Murphy smiled, the first genuine smile she had seen from him since Jakarta. "Chun, I want you to know something. That tattoo of yours, I still think you made a mistake getting it. But watching you work today, seeing how you handled yourself under fire and uncovered this conspiracy, I understand why you felt connected to what it represents." He paused, looking out the window at the Jakarta skyline. "You may not have earned that Trident through Hell Week, but you've earned it through something else. You've proven that you're willing to put mission success and team safety ahead of everything else. That's what really matters." Amanda felt tears threatening, but she blinked them back. This wasn't the time for emotion. "Thank you, Master Chief. That means more to me than you know." The sound of helicopter rotors in the distance announced their approaching extraction. As the team moved toward the building's roof access, Amanda took one last look at her laptop screen. The intelligence upload was complete, every piece of evidence that would expose the conspiracy and protect other American contractors from similar betrayals. 30 minutes later, they were aboard a Navy MH-60 Seahawk helicopter flying toward the USS Ronald Reagan at maximum speed. Jakarta fell away behind them as they headed for the safety of international waters. Amanda stared out the helicopter's window at the South China Sea, thinking about everything that had happened. She had started this mission worried about acceptance from a SEAL team. She was ending it as a key witness in an international intelligence conspiracy that reached the highest levels of the American military. Rodriguez, sitting across from her in the helicopter, leaned over and shouted above the rotor noise, "Chun, when we get home, what are you going to do first?" Amanda thought for a moment, then shouted back, "I'm going to get a second tattoo." Rodriguez laughed and gave her a thumbs up. Even Murphy cracked a smile, but Amanda was serious. She had learned something fundamental about herself during the past 24 hours. She didn't need anyone else's permission to honor the values she believed in. The trident on her shoulder wasn't about claiming membership in an exclusive club. It was about committing herself to live up to the highest standards of courage, integrity, and service. As the helicopter carried them toward safety, Amanda Chun, intelligence analyst, former Navy officer, and unlikely member of one of the most elite security teams in the world, finally understood that belonging wasn't something that could be granted or denied by others. It was something you earned through your actions, one decision at a time. 3 months later, Amanda stood in Commander Morrison's office at Blackwater headquarters, reading a letter from the Secretary of Defense. The investigation into the Jakarta conspiracy had resulted in 17 arrests, including Patricia Walsh and Colonel Marcus Webb. The Chinese intelligence network that had orchestrated the operation was dismantled, and new security protocols were implemented across all American private military operations. "Chun," Morrison said, "you've been offered a position with a new joint task force focused on counterintelligence operations. It's a significant promotion with expanded responsibilities. Are you interested?" Amanda looked down at the letter, then at the framed photograph on Morrison's desk, showing him with his SEAL team from years earlier. She thought about Murphy, who had recommended her for the position. She thought about Rodriguez, Williams, and Thompson, who had become genuine friends and trusted colleagues. Most of all, she thought about the tattoo on her shoulder, no longer a source of anxiety or doubt, but a reminder of the standards she had chosen to live by. "Yes, sir," Amanda said. "I'm very interested." As she left Morrison's office, Amanda rolled up her sleeve slightly, just enough to see the edge of the trident tattoo. She had proven herself worthy of wearing it, not through anyone else's judgment, but through her own actions, and that, she realized, was the only validation that had really mattered. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.